I'm listening to a podcast. They're these episodic audio recordings.
I'm familiar with the concept of the podcast. Everyone is.
We have a lot of interesting things to say, so,
Oh, shit. Well, I feel like the conversation we've been having in the last 5 minutes is a lot more interesting than the shit they're talking about on the radio. Are you kidding me? Just moronic commentary and stupid sound effects, and it's just dumb. It doesn't make any sense.
Well, we have voices. We talk about the issues, I feel like we could do a podcast, and it would be a million times better than whatever that drivel was we were listening to.
Without a doubt.
It's the greatest podcast ever.
Yes, it is, Bill Burr. You are correct.
Thanks, Bill.
It's the greatest
Big
podcast ever. It's the new highly produced Jeff Dubay Show. We can get in here with Jason Linse. It is Monday, the 13th of January, not July. I know what month it is this time. January.
You're about to turn 60.
Oh my God, I'm about to turn 52.
Oh,
but and speaking of that, for folks who are following us on Facebook, which most of our listeners or viewers are, please check out my birthday fundraiser for Be Kind to People. It's a fantastic organization. They feed a lot of people. House a lot of people.
What is it? I saw that on Facebook.
Well, you've seen the food shelves and the things that I do. Saturday morning. That's Be Kind to People.
So if I throw $10 at this, where does it go?
It goes straight to the people who need it. I swear to God. This is not the United Way where they take like 70 cents of every dollar. Serenity Village is a nonprofit, so we feed people. It's a really good organization.
All right.
But also, this is the Jeff Dubay Show with Jason Linse, sponsored by Uptown Fitness.
Yes, Uptown Fitness, 1207 Lagoon Avenue, right in the heart of Uptown. Cub Foods, if you know where that is, you know where Uptown Fitness is. We are a small group personal training gym. We do offer one-on-one, but most people do small group. That way you can cost share, but our groups are only up to 4. So don't think of like Orange Theory or Alchemy or those big, large, watered down, jumping around 20, 30 people. Not that that's not a good workout, but if you're looking for a good workout, go there. If you're looking to actually get to the goals you want to achieve, Uptown Fitness, check out uptownfitnessmn.com, and you can schedule a free session.
So it's time for a post-mortem on the Viking season. They lose 27-10 to San Francisco in a game where they were thoroughly outclassed. Just
throttled.
7 first downs, 140 yards of offense, something ridiculous. They threw for 100 yards. They did absolutely nothing offensively outside of the one good drive that tied the game 7-7 with the touchdown pass to Diggs.
Yeah, early on it looked like we might have a game.
Yeah, I thought so. And I really was optimistic that the Vikings would be able to play with this team. I thought that defensively we'd be okay against them, which we weren't. We were just okay against them. I didn't think Kittle was going to have a huge game, and he didn't. We got the guys who can match up with him, both at the linebacker and safety positions. And they did do a decent job on Kittle. They didn't erase him, but they did a decent job. But there's really not a lot of mystery to what the Vikings, what their downfall was and what caused them trouble. You look at the teams that beat them this year: Green Bay twice, Chicago twice, Seattle, Kansas City, San Francisco. If you have a good defensive line, you are going to smack the Vikings around.
Yeah.
You're gonna bitch slap the Vikings. If you've got a good defensive front, the Vikings' offensive line is just going to be overmatched. And I don't know if that's a personnel issue, if that's a scheme issue. We know that's a zone blocking team. They want these athletic offensive linemen that can get out. And pull in the running game. I tend to think that this is a more sound philosophy for a running game than it is for pass protection. The Vikings ranking near the bottom of the league in pass protection this year, 26th in average time allowed or something.
Yeah, I've watched the games. I've seen it.
And I tell you what, it's always a tricky thing. And I went back in the days of P and Dubay, and when I was co-hosting Fan Line with Mike Morris, I would just judge an offensive line based on did they run the ball and did they protect the quarterback? Just because, to judge individual play on an offensive line is very difficult. Steve Loney was a regular guest of the P and Dubay Show way back in the day.
Blast from the past. I know that name.
He was an offensive line coach, and then he became the offensive coordinator. But when he was the offensive line coach, he was explaining to us what his job was. He would get back on a Sunday night, and he would watch every offensive snap 5 times. He'd watch this play for the left tackle, then he'd rewind it, and then he'd watch what the left guard did, then he'd rewind it, then he'd watch the same play again to grade the center, all the way down the line. He'd have to watch every play to grade out every. It takes a lot to grade out an offensive lineman. But I can tell you this: Pat Elflein had a horrible season at guard. He got beat over and over. For a guard to give up 6 sacks, think of the guys he's blocking. Think of the guys who are lining up opposite him. They're not pass rushers, all right? They're interior linemen. Right. And I know you get some guys who play the 3 technique, who are shoot the gap kind of guys.
Yeah.
Pat Elflein
He's blocking the weakest link on the
Well,
line.
and he came in as a guy who'd been moved to guard when he was in college at Ohio State, and the Vikings moved him to center, and he did a really good job. He's a good, solid center. Then you draft Bradbury, who had a very uneven rookie year. I mean, you could see there were times where you could see what they saw in him while he was a first-round pick, and then there are other times where he looked a little lost and a little overwhelmed. But Elflein's move to guard, I didn't think was going to be such a disaster. I mean, because that's the position he finished his college career at, and it's an easier position than center. I mean, just plain and simple. It should have made him better, not worse. Right. And Pat Elflein was a train wreck. Riley Reif typically grades out as one of the absolute worst tackles in the National Football League, of the starting tackles. So I mean, there's a couple spots on that line that you've got to be really concerned about. And I'm not saying you need to replace Pat Elflein. I mean, he was a third-round pick just a couple of years ago. He's not, or a few years ago. He's not somebody that I'd necessarily say, hey, boy, you better do something with that spot. But I mean, you got to get more out of him than you are. Yeah. But Kevin Stefanski goes to Cleveland as the head coach. Now, we've talked about this before.
He'll be fired in 2 years.
Well, you never know with these things because we don't know what it is that necessarily it makes a great head coach these days. I mean, it's kind of an it factor that's hard to put your finger on. I mean, is he the best offensive coordinator in football? Hell no. The Minnesota Vikings, with the talent that they have assembled, they had the 16th ranked total offense this year by yardage per game. 16th ranked. Okay. And let's go back 2 years ago to Pat Shurmur, who I think was a fantastic offensive coordinator.
Case Keenum.
Yeah, you had less talent. You had less talent at quarterback. And trust me when I say
running
this.
back
Well, Dalvin Cook with that. I was going to get to that too. And you had less talent on the offensive line. They've added significantly to the offensive line in the last couple of years. But despite the upgrades at those three spots, in 2017, the Vikings were it was 10th or 11th in total offense and 16th this year. So I mean, I'm not enamored with the job done by Kevin Stefanski. I'm a big Pat Shurmur guy, and is he still unemployed? I mean, the Giants let him go. He's still out there. I don't know. I'm not officially a member of the media anymore. I don't have the access I once did. I don't know what the Zimmer-Shurmur relationship was like. I think it was solid. I would love to bring him back. I would absolutely love to bring him back. There's talk about at least one, if not both, the Kubiaks going to Cleveland with Stefanski because he's got great relationships.
Really?
At least with the younger Kubiak. Maybe
fine.
I mean, maybe the elder Kubiak stays and becomes your offensive coordinator.
That would be nice.
I'd have no problem with that. I'd have no problem with that. But I would love to see Pat Shurmur back as a Vikings offensive coordinator. I don't know that's even a possibility. I don't know that's being discussed at any level. I
don't know that.
But I really thought he was a fantastic offensive coordinator, and I am somebody who gets hypercritical of offensive coordinators. So yeah, I mean, I was a big Shurmur guy. I mean, who wouldn't be enamored with everything that happened that year?
Yeah.
Up until the playoffs.
Yeah, Pat Shurmur was awesome.
Yeah.
Now, how many head coaching jobs are available? Is that what he'd be looking for? I mean, he had a one and done.
Pat Shurmur's not going to be a head coach.
Yeah. So
no.
what are
I don't know if he'll ever be one again. I mean, I mean that's how it is in the NFL. A lot of the times you get one shot, and then you are back to being a position coach.
Which is why Kevin Stefanski probably shouldn't have taken the job in Cleveland.
Well, it's their worst jobs to take. Now, I thought that the Cleveland Browns.
Well, you do have Baker Mayfield.
Well, I thought they were horribly overrated this season. I mean,
sure.
The season they had did not surprise me at all. And this is not hindsight 2020. When people were picking them as a favorite in the AFC North, maybe even a favorite in the AFC, I literally laughed out loud at it. I'm like, you've got to be
just because
that's a stretch. Because they added some window dressing. I mean, I know that they got some pieces, but I mean, to me, other than quarterback, and I'm still not sold on Baker Mayfield, but other than quarterback, I think skilled positions on an offense are basically equivalent to fancy rims and a nice sound system in a car.
Yeah, right.
And if your car's a piece of shit, it's a piece of shit. Right. And then the Browns' car was a piece of crap. Yeah. I mean, you might have a nice stereo. I'm not sure about Baker Mayfield yet, but I mean, quarterback is obviously a key component. But I mean, the engine of that car is the offensive line, and I mean, I'm not considering break down the Browns' offensive line. I didn't watch enough of the Browns, but I mean, just to think that they had this great team because they had some really frilly pieces like OBJ, and Kareem Hunt, and it wasn't enough for me. It was not nearly enough for me. However, having said that, typically, if you are taking over a team as a head coach, you're taking over a rebuild. You're taking over a team that sucked, and they sucked for a reason. So having said that, when it comes to a first-time head coaching opportunity, Cleveland's a pretty good one.
Not a lot of expectations, I suppose.
But there are right now.
Yes and no.
There are now. But
he doesn't have to make the playoffs next year.
I don't know. He might.
Really?
He might.
Well, then, okay.
He might take some of the failure on from this year's.
How many games did they win this year?
6 or 7.
Yeah,
I mean,
okay.
it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
I don't know.
I mean, they've, the fans there have been waiting a long
He's
time.
37 years old. There's only 32 jobs available, so I get that. But
Yeah, and it's not
seems
for a
like-
first-time coach. It's not a bad spot.
All right.
I mean, they've got a chance. I mean, they've got some talent. I mean, you're not taking over 3 of 13 team. And in the NFL, the difference between 6-10 and 10-6
their division
is
is not great either.
I mean,
is it?
6-10 and 10-6. That's the difference in the
Yeah.
NFL these days between
Oh,
those
yeah.
teams.
Well,
So I mean,
speaking of
it's not.
10-6.
Yeah, I mean, look at what were the Packers last year? I mean, now they're 13-3 and going to the
I
NFC
don't know.
Championship game. And
Let's
they
not
just
talk about them.
well, we're gonna have to at
Are
some
they
point.
going to get drilled? They're going to get drilled, right?
You know what? They got absolutely
Just tell me they're gonna get
destroyed.
beat.
They got absolutely destroyed by San Francisco earlier in the year.
38-7 or something.
I don't think that's going to happen again. I think it's going to be a really close, hard-fought game that San Francisco will be just good enough to win. And that's not
Fine
the
with
Packer
me.
hater in me. I think that's the logical pick here. Is that San Francisco is going to be a little bit too good for them. I don't think they're going to roll them like they did before. I think Rodgers is playing better right now.
Yeah.
In playoff football, it's unless the opponent is the Vikings, it's hard to really roll somebody in the playoffs. I mean, most conference championship games.
I didn't watch
think are
the
pretty
game last
competitive.
night. How did they do against Seattle? I know they won, but
I didn't see all of it. I was tied up for most of the night, but I mean they went out to a 21-0 lead or 21-3 lead.
Is that what it was?
And then
Oh, wow.
and then Russell Wilson and the Seahawks came charging back at him. It was 28-23.
Did every call go their way?
Well, yeah. Well, they had a big one, and I'm going to get to here in a second. It was 28-23, and the Seahawks come up with another big stop. It was 28-10. Seahawks get a couple touchdowns. Seahawks get a punt. Now they got the ball, all the momentum in the world. 4 minutes left.
Yeah.
28-23. You think, boy, well, is Wilson going to take him right down the field again? And sure enough, he hits Lockett for a quick gain out to like the 30.
Yeah.
And then he's got DK Metcalf over the middle, into Packer territory, just squatting down
And
in the
they're
middle of
down
the zone.
5.
And it hits him in the belly and he drops it.
This is when they're down 5 points.
Yeah, with like 3 minutes left. Hits him in the belly and he drops it.
Yeah.
So it leads to a third and whatever, where Russell Wilson is sacked. 3 minutes left. They got all 3 timeouts. They choose to punt. I mean, it was 4th and long, 3 timeouts. I don't blame them.
Pulled a Zimmer.
I don't blame them. So they punted away. They got the 2-minute warning. They got all the timeouts. Packers get them into a 3rd and 9 immediately, and Rodgers just drops a dime. Just a beautiful throw to Devontae Adams. Gets him a first down out around midfield. And then it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9 again, and he hits Jimmy Graham on a pass where I don't think there's any way you can argue that he got a first down on this play. I mean,
I saw.
I mean, his helmet.
His helmet was short of
His
the line.
helmet was short of the line.
Yeah.
So explain to me how the ball could possibly be. There was a horrible spot.
Did they throw a flag on that or?
Well, they reviewed it, I believe, because it's in the final 2 minutes.
Okay.
So I think it was an automatic review, and they didn't have the angle that they needed that showed the ball. But I mean, common sense tells you if his helmet hasn't made it to the line and his arms are down here, then he hasn't made the line. He just hasn't made it. He hasn't made the first down. But it was definitely a questionable call. I don't know what they would have done. I suppose they would have had to punt. You can't take the chance of giving up.
It was around
position.
midfield.
Yeah, it would have been around the 35 or 40 yard line of Seattle. So I mean, I gotta believe they would have punted. Maybe I'm wrong, but is it why they won? I mean, it kept Seattle from getting a last chance with about a minute and a half left and no timeouts. So that there might have been a chance for a different outcome. But the bottom line is just Packer fan, Viking fan, neutral fan, nobody watching that game could possibly tell me that they think he made that first down. He didn't. He didn't make that first down. And the spot on the field was a full yard beyond what it should have been. But again, I don't know that they had enough to overturn it. But anyway, let's get back to the Vikings. You look at what's going to have to happen. Well, I mean, I don't believe they're going to make any change with Zimmer or Spielman. And I'll tell you what.
Do you think they should?
Rick Spielman has put together some pretty good rosters.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's the ultimate results-oriented business. You win or you don't, and if you don't, you're a failure.
Lombardi trophies.
But I mean,
Or what you have
I think Spielman he's done some great draft day maneuvering. I think he is extremely good at maximizing picks. He's good at moving down and adding value, and I think they've drafted pretty well. And I think he's put together some really talented rosters. The team just they haven't reached the ultimate goal. So that in and of itself could justify a change. I personally would not do anything with Spielman. I would keep him in place, and I would keep Zimmer. I would give Zimmer one more year because this is the last year of Cousins' contract. I don't know what you do with them don't know if you extend him this offseason or not. But when they gave him a 3-year contract, it's because they believed that they had a 3-year window. I mean, it was that simple. They looked at the age and of their defense. They looked at the contracts that were going to come up, who they could afford to keep, and who they couldn't, and they came up with a 3-year window. And that's why Cousins got a 3-year contract.
We're 2/3 of the way done with that.
I mean, teams don't do things by accident.
No, I got you. So what do you think they should do with Cousins?
Here's the thing. They got 1 more year in that window, and you know what? If you put all your eggs in this 3-year plan, then I think you keep the pieces together at least as much as you can. You're already losing some coaching staff, and it's not just Stefanski. I think he's going to bring some people with him. But I think you got to. So I know fans aren't. It's not going to be a popular choice, but I think you got to stay the course for year 3. I don't know.
Do you have to? I don't know how.
I don't know if you have to or not.
Is he going to get all diva-ish if you don't? Like, what does he expect?
I don't know. I don't know Cousins personally. He seems to be a fairly humble guy. I know you don't go for this, but he's a Christian. He's not. I don't know. I think
that's a detriment.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. What you got to do is you got to find some fat to trim, because you're up against the cap. As a matter of fact, it sounds like you're a little over it. Now, I don't know what some of these cap numbers are next year, and just simply releasing a guy doesn't relieve you from all the cap responsibility. The guy signs, he gets a signing bonus, and that signing bonus then is divided up over the years of his contract in terms of how it counts against the salary cap. Yeah. And if you release a guy with multiple years on his contract, then you take that prorated part of his signing bonus for those years, and it counts against the cap right away. So I don't know what the cap numbers on these particular guys are, but if you want to, find a way to cut some fat from what might be a slightly overpaid defense, here's where I do it. And I don't think any of these guys are bad players. I know Xavier Rhodes took a lot of heat this year, and I know his production dropped off, and he turned into a little bit of a bitch sometimes on the sidelines. But nonetheless, he's where I start. And it has less to do with this performance than it does to do with just numbers. Yeah. I mean, you've got Mackenzie Alexander, you've got Mike Hughes, you've got Holton Hill. I mean, it's time to find out. These guys just can't go on being your 3rd, 4th, 5th cornerbacks forever. I mean, at some point you gotta be able to roll with them or be confident enough to roll with them. Right. So Xavier Rhodes is the first place I trim in some fat. Okay. The second place is Everson Griffin. Everson Griffin is the second place. I think I know.
He's getting older too.
Yeah, I mean, he's a 10-year veteran. He's not the dominant player he was. He's a great guy, and I know that he had the personal struggles, and his story is one of triumph, and I got nothing but love and respect for the guy. I remember when I worked for 1500 ESPN, and I was down at training camp on the field. I was standing next to Everson Griffin's dad watching the defensive line go through drills, and he's the nicest guy in the world. And this was 2000. When was I there? 2013. So I was telling him, I'm like, hey, this is your son's big year, man. This is the year that he's going to get rewarded with that big deal, and he was. It was his time. This is 6 years ago. But now it might be the other. Now you might be on the other end of that. And here's the other reason behind why I would pick this spot to trim the fat is you've got a lot of really good defensive linemen. You've got a thick rotation, a real fat rotation. And I like Weatherly. He plays the end. And when Griffin was out last year, I thought he did a really good job, and he still is making plays. Odenegbo's an end. He plays the end. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, a lot of these guys have a lot of versatility. They can move them around quite a bit. So I think that you could survive without Rhodes. I think you could survive without Griffin. The last one, I personally think, and this is not an easy position for me to grade because you really have to watch him closely, but I think Linval Joseph has fallen off. Okay. I don't think he's this dominant run stopper. And when you see the Vikings run defense not be as stout, especially right up the middle as it has been, I think that's where the conversation has to begin. So I just personally, I think when you're looking at, I don't.
Harry the Hitman, you got to keep.
Oh, absolutely. You keep him. You keep Waynes. You keep Barr, Kendricks, and Danielle Hunter. I certainly like Shamar Stephen. I like Jaleel Johnson's okay in a rotation. Yeah. I think Weatherly can take on a bigger role and be good. Odenegbo, I think can take on a bigger role and be really good. Okay. So, and I got belief. I got faith. I got faith in Mike Hughes and Mackenzie Alexander. And to be honest with you, from what I saw a year ago, I liked Holton Hill. He didn't really get to do much when he came back from suspension in the middle of the year this year. Played special teams, basically. And maybe I'm putting too much faith in a guy who's had some off-field issues, but excuse me for relating. But
You've had off-field issues.
I've had some off-field issues. But I think you've got numbers on the defensive line. And I think you've got numbers in the secondary that allow you to move on from Xavier Rhodes and Everson Griffin.
Yeah.
Only if these guys, if it provides enough salary cap relief to be worth it. Because I don't know what their cap numbers are. I just don't. I don't have that right now. But
what about offensive people that are expendable?
Well, I think the least important position in all of football, the least important position in all of football, other than a punter, I suppose,
I know what you're going to say.
Is wide receiver.
Wide receiver.
I mean,
Find him at the grocery store, I say.
Yeah, you can. I mean, now, granted, you got to have a good offensive line, a good quarterback, and they can make regular receivers look better than they are.
They're certainly the most overpaid. They seem to get once they get that, like we paid Thielen and Diggs because we had to, I guess.
And
right?
don't get me wrong, I like Thielen
but
and
maybe
Diggs.
you didn't have to.
And I'm not sure that you need to trim the fat as much on the offensive side of football. I think that's the side of the ball that needs attention. Now, obviously, the offensive line is horrible in pass protection. They're an absolutely god-awful pass protecting group. And obviously, the most important pass protector is your left tackle, Riley Reef. I say good riddance to that. See you, Riley Reef. Yeah. Not to mention he's a Hawkeye. Who needs that around?
Is he an Iowa Hawkeye?
Yeah, but so is Jaleel Johnson, and I just backed him up. But anyway.
So is Chad Greenway.
Yeah, I love Chad Greenway. Anyway, I don't want to see wholesale changes anywhere on the offense other than unless you want to do some things on the line. And you have to do some things on the line.
What do you do on the line?
Bradbury's got to get better. Elf line's either got to be replaced or get better. I think O'Neal's going to be good. I like what you said about him. I think Reef's got to go.
Yeah, but you can find the wide receivers at the grocery store. You can't find O-line at the grocery store. That's the problem.
You can't. And I haven't looked at the draft to see what's going to be there late first round. But it's
white guys from Big Ten or
I don't know. But you got to do something. And I know you're up against the cap, but maybe if you do without some of those high-priced, underperforming guys on the defensive side of the ball, maybe that clears up the space that you need to do some things. Now, I want to talk about the quarterback. I don't know what your responsibility is. Like, if you are going to be committed to him beyond this year, well, you got to decide a couple things before you go ahead and extend him. Number one, has he earned it? I think you could argue he has. I know his performances are uneven, and he comes up soft at bad times, and it's something that I've been very critical of.
He didn't play good against the 49ers.
Well, here's the thing. And we get a lot of people writing him a pass against San Francisco because of the way the offensive line played. And I only partially agree with that. Was Kirk Cousins the cause of your angst against San Francisco? No. And he certainly did not get much help from his offensive line.
He's incapable of doing what Aaron Rodgers will do.
Well, yeah, here's what drives me nuts about Cousins. And it doesn't always his shortcomings are not always really obvious. Like, people will get bent out of shape about the pick that he threw. That's Thielen's fault as much as it's his fault. And then they'll write him a pass when he's getting sacked because they say he's got nowhere to go. But the problem with Cousins is he's so skittish in the pocket that his eyes don't stay downfield. And a big part of it is that he's not getting protected. But you know what? Just because protection breaks down, that doesn't mean you have the right to turtle. I mean, as a quarterback, you've got to be willing to take a hit. You've got to stand there and keep your eyes downfield. Kirk Cousins stops scanning the field earlier than other quarterbacks.
Right.
Other quarterbacks will also sense where the pressure's coming from. They'll have this sense that you see those car commercials where the car's got these crazy ray beams coming out of every side. And if anybody comes within a half a mile of it, it beeps. I mean, there's quarterbacks like that. Russell Wilson has that.
Yeah.
And like if somebody comes into Russell Wilson's little ozone layer, I mean, it beeps. Russell Wilson's head beeps.
Ozone.
Well, you know what I'm talking about? You got the side and the front, and you got these little rays coming out of every car. They're like spaceships. It's like the Jetsons.
Cousins doesn't have that.
He doesn't have that. He doesn't have that.
He's not going to develop it now.
No, he's like a 1982 LeSabre. I mean, he has no safety features. But and you don't even have seatbelts.
I'd love to have an 82 LeSabre.
But my point is,
nice ride.
A quarterback has got to have pocket poise, pocket presence. You can't be skittish. You can't be scared. Cousins is both. So like in a game like this where he doesn't make the big mistake, you can't find, these glaring errors. But I promise you, when they're breaking down film and you're looking at things, there are plays that he leaves on the field that you just don't see. There are receivers that are available to him on a play-by-play basis that he just hasn't stayed in the pocket and kept his eyes downfield long enough because he's like, okay, somebody coming here.
Yeah.
Well, and then and instead of bouncing it and getting out of the pocket and extending a play like Wilson does, like Rodgers does, he just does this.
Right.
He does this. I mean, he's a turtle. He's
And it's sad too because he could be effective with his legs if he
yeah.
wanted to.
He's not unathletic. I mean, he's not.
He's not Brady.
No,
but he's also
right.
not Wilson.
Right.
But, you
So,
know.
I mean, it's yeah. So I do believe Cousins has more culpability. Is my bottom line here. I think he has more culpability for what happened Sunday than people want to will say. I mean, I get it. The offensive line is awful, and they're not affording him much chance when the Vikings throw the football. And the fact that the Vikings could not establish any running game at all didn't make it any
How
easier
about
because
that?
the Vikings are only effective throwing the ball if they're able to play action.
And conversely, they ran
and
on us
waggle.
like it was
Yeah, and part of me again think that I've seen teams run
ball.
so much better against the Vikings in the past. It makes me wonder about the effectiveness of Linval Joseph, and maybe that's a spot where I find a way to save some money.
We need the Williams
Joseph,
ball.
Griffin, and Rhodes, and I like all three players. I don't think any of the three are done. I don't think any of the three are worthless by any stretch, and they'll all be in the league next year. But I think that these are guys that if you're looking to get rid of some salary cap, and take away from positions of strength where you've got some depth where you might not feel it. I just think those are the places I start. Rhodes, Griffin, Joseph in that order. And it's certainly I like Rhodes better than most. I mean, Rhodes has become public enemy number one.
want me to read a
Vikings fans,
question?
but yeah, if we got
Why bring Bradbury and move Elfline from center to guard? Did we need Mike Hughes so bad in the draft instead of a top flight of O-line?
Well, I mean, Spielman is a
Thanks.
dyed-in-the-wool best player available guy.
Yeah.
You know, and Mike Hughes was a first-round talent that due to some again,
healthy.
off-field issues that they feel that they vetted properly and were comfortable with. You know, they were able to get a guy at a spot where talent-wise he shouldn't have been there. And when you have that opportunity, especially at a position that's so important and so hard to find as corner, they grabbed him. And he also adds an element as a return man that we just haven't really seen yet. But in college, he was a dynamic return man, had a number of punt return touchdowns, not just kick returns. In terms of drafting Bradbury is the exact kind of lineman that they want for their scheme. I mean, smart, athletic. I mean, the thought of a center, pulling and getting out. I mean, 30 years ago, that would have been an absurd notion. But now you want these athletic zone block scheme type guys. And Bradbury fits what they want to do perfectly. Elfline was a guard in college. He was center and guard, but it made perfect sense at the time to take Bradbury and move Elfline to guard. It still, it could wind up working out. I'm not sure I'm done with Elfline. And Bradbury, it certainly wasn't a failure of a rookie season. It was just uneven. It was just an uneven rookie season.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times where he really looked the part, and there were times where he didn't. I'm not, in X's and O's offensive coach type genius kind of thing, but I liked the old school style of offense that we used to see, where you just big, tough, physical offensive line, where you impose your will, just road graders, just a power running game, not the finesse, cutesy pie, ballerina running game. Yeah, I mean, give me guys who can just really physically own the people on the other side of the ball from them, and then let me attack vertically with the passing game. And I think I know that this is ancient history. It's 20 years ago, but the '98 Vikings were the perfect example of just a power running game. We got speed in the backfield, we got size up front. We're just going to pound you into submission and then just throw it over the top. I love power running, vertical passing. I love it.
Randy
I just
Moss
love
and
it.
Chris Carter.
It's just the Vikings still never. They don't take full advantage of the vertical passing attack, and I think part of that is because Cousins is so skittish in the pocket that there are plays that are called for it, but he just doesn't keep his eyes down the field.
He can launch it.
Oh, he's a great
hell of an
thrower.
accurate long passer.
But he's got to be comfortable enough in the pocket to keep his eyes downfield. But he doesn't. He just and sometimes it's justified. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes he's taking his eyes, and it's not what he's doing physically. It's what he's looking for and what he's looking at. I mean, his eyes come off of the targets. His eyes are not downfield as long as they should be. All of a sudden, he's doing this, and he's doing this, and he's doing this.
He's scary. He's a pansy.
Yeah, I think he kind of is, to be perfectly honest with that.
I know he is.
He's not a real
You see
fiery.
how much protective gear he wears here?
Well, I don't.
I shouldn't be so hard on that.
That doesn't bother me. But I think I've seen him take checkdowns way sooner than he needs to, with pressure not nearly as bad as it seems to be in his head. I mean,
who would you rather have, Teddy Bridgewater or him?
well, if you could go back to pre-injury Teddy Bridgewater, it's Teddy Bridgewater.
You think he's
I know.
affected by his injury?
Well, I mean, when we tried to get to see him a couple years ago, he was awful. When we tried to get him at the end of the year, whatever was it last year, whenever it was, and it was the year before. But with New Orleans this year, I mean, he went 4-0, 5-0 as a starter.
Yeah.
But they were winning these games like 17-10.
Yeah.
I mean, he wasn't putting up big numbers. So I mean, I think Teddy Bridgewater, in his third year, which is the year he got hurt, was on the verge of a breakout. I think he was going to be a really good, maybe not elite, but close to elite. I thought he's going to be a really good and definitely a franchise level quarterback. I just don't know. I haven't seen enough of him since the injury.
Yeah.
I mean, the only little samples I've seen of him have been underwhelming.
He might get a crack if Breeze retires, right? He'll be the guy.
And he's a free agent right now.
Oh, is he?
He is. He's a free agent right now. And he did go undefeated at the start of this year. But again, they weren't winning 41-34. I mean, these were they were low scoring games with some pretty modest offensive numbers.
Zimmer would take him.
But we just gotta. We've hit a half hour here, and we don't have any time limit. But I like to keep it fairly short. We don't want to bore people.
Yeah.
But before we go, a couple of things. College football championship game is tonight.
Oh, yeah.
The day of this taping.
Yeah.
Is July.
What time's the game on?
I said July again. January 13th.
What time's kickoff?
Oh, who knows? I mean, it's.
Wow. I rely on you for these things.
I'll look it up. Just go ahead and tell them about Uptown Fitness or something while I look it up.
Uptown Fitness, 1207 Lagoon Avenue.
You know what? I've got no signal in here.
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's probably on at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably earlier than that because college football, it's got to be 7:15 because college football is so long. But anyway, this game, I think LSU is going to win this game easily. LSU is so much better than anybody. Clemson shouldn't even be in this game. Ohio State should be in this game. Ohio State was the better team. Ohio State got a little screwed, not totally screwed, but a little screwed by the officials. They're a better team than Clemson. They deserve to beat Clemson. LSU is we just have one of those years where LSU is so much better than anybody. And Joe Burrow, like I told you a couple weeks ago, he's Tom Brady in the pocket. He's Aaron Rodgers out of the pocket. Yeah, there's nothing he can't do.
He's the real deal. He's number one in the
phenomenal
draft, right? Overall.
Well, either him or Chase Young.
Cincinnati, right?
Chase Young's a
Cincinnati
defensive end.
Bengals, they number one pick.
They are the number one pick, and the Redskins are number two, and they both need a quarterback. Unless you're a believer in Dwayne Haskins.
I don't know enough about Dwayne Haskins.
Well, I mean, he was a great quarterback at Ohio State. I mean, fantastic. But
I try not to take Big Ten quarterbacks. I'd rather take a
like Kirk Cousins.
SEC. Yeah.
Let's see. What else was
Unless
there?
you draft RG3 first.
And then NFC Championship next week, San Francisco, Green Bay.
Yes.
We are big wine and cheese fans. Go Napa Valley.
Yes.
Go San Francisco. Go Levi Jeans.
There won't be any green and gold in that stadium, by the way.
Oh yeah,
there wasn't any purple there on Saturday.
There will be some green and gold in that stadium.
There will?
Yeah. Do you remember a few years ago when they played in the playoffs? Kaepernick just roasted them. I mean, like he was scoring on like 50-yard touchdown runs.
He beat the Packers?
Oh, he smoked them.
I remember the Russell
them.
Wilson game, the Seahawks, the NFC Championship game.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I know it's petty, but I hate the Packers almost as much as I love the Vikings.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, they've won 14 out of 17 games this year. It blows my mind because they do it without looking great. Every single game, they looked just okay, just good enough to win. They've never had put a game where they put it all together and I was like, wow, that's a really good team. I mean, it's what happened Sunday again.
Would you rather have them lose this weekend
than in the
get drilled in the Super Bowl?
No, I'd rather them lose this weekend. I don't even want their fans to have. And by the way,
I would rather see them get drilled in the Super Bowl 50-10.
Really, not me, because that would still be a lot of fun for their fans.
I shouldn't say that.
Their fans are the source of my angst.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we have to live amongst them here in Minneapolis.
They come take the jobs.
Well, okay, well,
I'm kidding. But they moved to Minneapolis.
They're not like immigrants, but not there's anything wrong with immigrants.
No, they're good people.
No, they're not. Well, okay, but they're obnoxious. They're in your office. They're in the cubicle next to you.
They wear the green and gold.
They're gloating. They're just, you have green and gold dumbbells. What the hell? Not dumbbells.
We got green and gold weight plates.
Yeah, what the hell? What's wrong with you?
Well, not all. We got all colors.
Yeah, well.
All colors of the Gobi spectrum. But anyway, yes.
But I mean, their fans are the main reason why I hate them. They're always around. They're annoying as hell. They're
it's only because of the success they've had with two Hall of Fame quarterbacks in the last 30 years.
Yes.
In the 70s and 80s, under Lynn Dickey and those quarterbacks and whatever they had back then, you wouldn't see as much green and gold.
Well, thankfully, this thing is nearing its end. I mean, it really is. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is 37, and just because Tom Brady and Drew Brees did it to 41. Doesn't mean Aaron Rodgers can do it to 41. I mean,
Dak has no chance. You're right. They have
well,
zero chance.
they have some chance. I hate to say it, but
I'm not even gonna watch.
It's
the
going to
game.
be. I can't wait for it. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a
both
close
games
game.
on Sunday.
And it's kind of a
Who's
homecoming
early?
for Aaron
Who's
Rodgers.
early and late? AFC, NFC. How about those Titans?
I would assume it'd be AFC early and NFC late because it's West Coast. But I mean, they do it prime time anyway, so I guess it wouldn't really matter. But that's going to do it. This was episode 10. Episode 10 we're up to. So we're double
You
digits.
didn't kiss your biceps.
Oh. Well, you didn't. Did you do the spot? You did the spot. You can look like come to Uptown Fitness. Look like
1207 Lagoon Avenue, Uptown Fitness, MN.com. We will get you more
I
athletic.
should get a wireless mouse for this part.
Yeah, you could do that. Don't even need a reason.